Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, and let's figure out what is happening because my goodness, Tesla up, looking like it'll be closing up just over 5%, putting us at about $274 and some change. Yeah, absolutely, truly unbelievable. We'll go over everything, of course. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, as usual, don't forget to hit that like button. It does help a lot. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I also have a membership section live for $2.99 a month. You get my intraday thoughts on Tesla as it moves, right? So for instance, this morning we talked about pretty much the most important levels and how it's technically still bullish, right? As long as it doesn't break below that teal line, and then how it breaks above 266, which it did and holds, we can see something as high as 280, which we're now clearly pretty much roughly seeing. Now, all that being said, let's jump into it. So yeah, pretty wild day. So there's a few things. It's again, we're in a very interesting position here, in my opinion, right now. And I have no issues admitting, I did not think Tesla. Okay, I thought Tesla would get here, but I absolutely did not think it would get here this fast. This is like 3 times faster than I thought it would. I thought it would come up here, maybe come down, get a retest, and then come back up. Then it'll come back up to around here. You know what I mean? The fact that it's just skyrocketing here straight like this without pretty much any breaks, I did not expect that. That is truly something else. The volume today, you can see, is very respectable, right? I wouldn't say it's high volume, but it's absolutely not a low volume. Very in line, I would say, roughly volume for the market or for Tesla today. And it finally closed, right? 274.46 cents. Per share. So let's figure out what this actually means. So the most important thing to understand here is the fact that, you know, we're apparently already going to be retesting this. Absolutely, this is like, if there is a trend line, if there is a resistance, if there is a place to A, I guess, reject, or B, break above, this is it. This is the big daddy. This to me is like the final boss, essentially. You know what I mean? This is like the final boss, this red line all the way up here, right? So you can see it's pretty much started from all-time highs, right? Roughly from here, right? And then, you know, from this level, of course, we came up to it, massive drawdown, came back up to it, retested it, back down, came up to it, retested it. But each time we've touched it, of course, as you can see, massive rejections. And guys, we're not far away from it. We're just like roughly $6 away from it, right? From, you know, assuming we do it tomorrow, that's only like a 2.5%, not very far away from it, right? I do think at this point it is pretty likely we will come up to about 280, but you know, it's only 2% away from here, right? You know, the risk versus reward here is, you know, questionable for sure. Now, with that being said, right, like I said many times, and I'll keep saying because it's still true, as long as Tesla has not broken this teal line, we've talked about this several times, technically it's still bullish. I've seen many people try to short Tesla, losing a lot of money doing that. It's not bearish until it breaks this teal line. It is showing some bearish indicators, and it is showing some potential slowdowns or exhaustions. But to me, the most important thing is breaking the trend. The trend is still very much up. The trend is still bullish. And until this line breaks, I have no reason to even think about shorting it. You know what I mean? So that's the way I look at it. And at this point, it seems like it's going to retest this line, right? I've been pretty much just scalping Tesla ever since. Every time it comes close to this line, I just buy shares. I give it a few hours and I sell for a profit. It's that simple. A little bit scary that it's that simple, but we're also going to go over a few other posts that are interesting to talk about as well. Now, again, as long as it's not broken, technically still bullish, but again, I hate sounding like a broken record. I'll be honest. I mean, I've obviously been wrong, you know, on this because this momentum has been truly just unpredictable in my opinion. Like this is ridiculous, right? No breaks, just straight up. But you know, I still have to tread with caution. I still have to warn, you know, give some caution here because, guys, I mean, you know, if you're just buying right now, let's say you're buying right at 275 essentially. I mean, if you're holding for 10 years, it doesn't matter. But, you know, it's not the best place to be buying, in my opinion, right? Especially because, again, you're playing for potentially 2.5% more upside, maybe 3 at most. And then potentially it'll come down to like 230, at least to this gap fill, 234, right? At least, if not maybe 220, right? Again, I know it sounds impossible. I know right now everyone's going to be like, that'll never happen. That's usually when it will happen, when no one thinks it will happen, right? I'm just saying. Anyways, but with that being said, right, the RSI still extremely overbought. It is getting a very, very scary up here. But again, the most important thing to me right now is the teal line and this red line. As long as I need to see what happens with these, right? If we come up to this and start getting rejected, that's where it starts getting spooky. And especially if we get rejected at the red line and break the teal line, that's where it gets very, very scary, right? The Bollinger Band We're once again pretty much hugging the green line. We're extremely close to it. Once again, we're very tightly hugging it. Again, it's kind of like what we did over here, right? Just very tightly hugging it, and then eventually we cool off. Eventually come back to the median, dance around, and then we actually get back to the red line, right? But the point is that, you know, that stuff does happen, right? It is going to cool off. I promise you that. I don't know when. I guarantee you it will, though, at some point, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's next week, whether it's in July, I don't know, but it will. Absolutely, unquestionably, it will cool off, and it will, you know, reset a little bit, if you will, right? You know, relax, kind of get the new momentum going. But again, as of right now, as far as I'm aware, Tesla is overall still bullish. However, if it somehow just casually breaks this red line as well, yeah, that's when things really start getting extremely confusing and extremely difficult. Technically, it becomes completely bullish. Technically, there's just no arguing that it is bullish, and it is absolutely broken the overall final boss downtrend. But until that happens, we'll see, right? We'll see. Again, to me, just be very cautious up here. I'm just scalping Tesla. I'm not doing anything crazy. Now, the thing that's interesting to me, then, you know, I think very important to understand and to note is the fact that I talked about, you know, QQQ potentially getting rejected up here, potentially setting up a cup and handle, right? Again, usually in theory, what happens with the market should affect Tesla, though, of course, it's been completely ignoring the market today, right? Just skyrocketing, even though the market was at 1.1% green, which is, you know, not crazy, but it's a decent, red. Which is a decent, you know, red for the market. But if QQQ does retrace from here, which I talked about many times, right, that I think it'll come up to around 370 and then probably retrace from there, right, as low as potentially even 330 almost, what will that do to Tesla? On top of that, not the best close on the QQQ today, right? You know, pretty bearish looking situation here with these three candles, right? It's not looking too hot in my opinion, right? The fact that it couldn't get above this gap, you know, it closed the gap, but it couldn't close above the gap, right? Shows, you know, that there is some momentum dying off, and the volume is atrociously low on the QQQ, right? Thankfully on Tesla, it's still high. And the reason I think it's high, and I said this before, is the fact that because, you know, we had OPEC or a quad witching on Friday, of course, of last week, right? You had a lot of options, probably a lot of calls in the money because of Tesla skyrocketing that were probably expiring in the money. What does that mean? That's a lot of shares being bought to satisfy those contracts, right? A lot of shares happening on Friday, and it also gets rolled over and happens on the following day, usually Monday, but obviously it was closed, in this case Tuesday. And in my opinion, this is probably part of that as well. This massive move with, you know, pretty respectable volume is probably that as well, right? With the volume, with the options expiring in the money, shares being bought, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Just take that for what it's worth, right? That's usually what happens when these kind of situations occur, essentially, right? So that could be an explanation for this. But again, you know, still wouldn't be surprised if Tesla does retouch 280. But again, this is where you really need to be careful here. Now, I want to point out a few things, right? So I've talked about before, right? So this is, he's pretty much talking about what I talked about as well, how it's pretty much approaching that overall trend line, pretty much the exact, this is the red line I just showed you. He's also talking about the RSI being completely overbought, right? Substantially more overbought than it was over here. Setting up some slight bearish divergences on the daily as well, right? 4 hour, a little bit of bearish divergences. I wouldn't say it's a super big, like, you know, insane bearish divergence, but, you know, there's definitely hints of it there for sure. 1 hour is a bit more obvious, where you can see, you know, it is falling while, you know, Tesla's just skyrocketing up, while the RSI is just having issues really making new highs, right? It's just kind of, you know, it's having issues going much higher, right? It's kind of very much consolidating, if not making lower lows even, right? Arguably. So, you know, be very cautious there in my opinion. But, you know, he's pretty much talking about the same things that I've been talking about right now as well, right? Where, you know, retesting a major trend line, RSI overbought. Now, this is where things get a little more bearish. Again, this is just to consider it, think about it, you know, just have it in the back of your head, in my opinion, right? You don't want to fully ignore it. But this guy right here, he's pretty bearish. He's overall definitely pretty bearish. But with that being said, he did post this way back when Tesla was still bouncing off the, hopefully, yeah, you can see it. When Tesla was bouncing off the, you know, the very lows, we had about $100 per share, right? And he was talking about how essentially he's doing an ABC, which is an Elliott wave theory, you know, principle, or like TA, if you will, right? Now, usually when a stock has an ABC like this, what that means is that this is nothing more than a corrective structure. Essentially, what it's doing is, after this massive downtrend, it's just doing a correction. It's essentially fixing a little bit of this downtrend, and then it continues the downtrend, right? That's essentially what he's saying, which you can see. Now this is the new updated chart, which is where we are at pretty much more or less right now. He's saying how anywhere between 258 to 294 is the finish of the C wave, which from there, in theory, he's saying it's going to go down lower. Probably, I mean, it seems like he thinks it's going to go sub 100. I don't know about that. Something pretty catastrophic would have to happen either to Tesla specifically, the business, Elon, whatever. Of course, knock on wood, right? Elon, hopefully nothing happens to him, right? But, or rather, or The economy itself would have to, something really bad would have to happen to the economy itself, and or, I mean, China, Taiwan. I mean, I'm just saying, if something happens with that as well, the whole market's probably good. Not just, the American market, probably all the markets are going to be, not very happy. Let's just say that. So, there's a lot of potential catalysts that can make this happen, but they're pretty major ones, like pretty catastrophic ones, I would even say. But again, I wanted to share this. Keep it in the back of your head. Just, take it for what it's worth. I think completely ignoring it is delusional, but, keep it in the back of your head. Just, think of the possibility that, this might happen. Maybe I'll be prepared for it just in case. I don't think it'll happen, but it's worth thinking about just in case as well. But that's kind of what I am thinking about right now, right? We also have the 10-day moving average. You can see just barely keeping up with us, just really can't keep up with us at all. But, it is trying to pretty much just following this teal line. But all in all, again, personally, I believe Tesla will come up to most likely retest $280. And let's just say it's somewhere from around here, it does stop, right? Again, personally, I believe Tesla will come down somewhere to close to this gap fill, probably 230. Again, the higher it goes, the better the bounce will be. And then from there, I think around 230, potentially 215 will be the major golden zone to potentially add more if, or start adding or whatever the case may be. And I think from there, in theory, I think we'll get an even stronger bounce and break past this red line. But this red line is the ultimate thing. In my opinion, if we ever break this red line, I think this whole theory gets invalidated entirely. Like, I don't think the red line can be broken or with this still being valid. Just my thoughts, of course, right? If it ever gets broken, I think Tesla is unquestionably bullish, even long-term now, right? Or like medium term to long-term. But yeah, that's the most important thing. This red line right here, absolutely crucial. Technically, if it gets rejected here, technically Tesla can still be bearish. Like long-term can still be, or I guess medium-term can still be bearish. So very crucial red line, very crucial that it gets broken at some point. I don't think it'll happen just yet. I do think we will get rejected, come down, retrace, consolidate, kind of chill out a bit. And then from there, hopefully get that push to break above it. And then from there, I think is where Tesla can start making its way to all-time highs potentially even, right? But we'll see. We'll see. Of course, we will see. But all in all, that's kind of what I am thinking. Again, very closely watching the red line and the T line. Extremely crucial spot here. Huge, like, it will be very telling in my opinion. This is like, I don't think, man, it's going to be huge. It's going to be a very big moment coming up here, probably this week as well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.